What's up, everybody? Mark with Kardavox Academy here, and today, through trials and tribulations, we are going to be listening to Flying the Black Flag by Shadow of Intent, and we're going to be listening with the vocalist himself, who will be pulling on here shortly, Ben Duerr. Some of you may know him. He's kind of a big deal, kind of a lot of people's favorite. One of my favorites, in fact. And so I'm really looking forward to digging into this video and talking about it. It's actually one of my favorite things to do on the channel, and we took a break. We took a break from doing it when my son was born. We would have guests from the band here on the channel listening to the songs, and it was a lot of fun. And then my son was born, and then things went kind of crazy. But you know, as many of you know, Ben is a new dad too, so he understood. And so we're back to it. We're having a good time, and I'm excited about it. So real quick before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I am a professional metal vocal coach. Been teaching people for about 5 years how to do all sorts of crazy sounds safely and efficiently. And if you're interested in that, then this channel will be a lot of fun for you, or you'll hate it. I don't know. We'll find out. And that's it. I'm in a band called Kardavox. Been doing metal vocals for about 15 years. Got a new album coming out. I'm not allowed to say when, but you know, keep an eye out. But that's it. That's all I got. So without further ado, let's just do our standard awkward YouTube pause and pull in Ben. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. YouTube magic has been done. What's up, Ben? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Yeah. Like we talked about while we were troubleshooting this fiasco, because anybody watching, we had to restart this like 3 times because my computer is failing. But I'm good, man. I'm tired, which I'm sure you can relate to.
I can relate, indeed.
Yeah, dude, it's interesting. We're both new dads. We're both new homeowners, and it's a lot. It's a lot, yeah. Dude.
It's a few handfuls.
Yeah, it's like one of those moments where like I'm excited about it and I wouldn't take it back, but I also, yeah, you know, I look to the future. You know?
Yeah.
Like I look to the future. I look fondly on the possibilities of freedom. And actually, speaking about the future, I assume with how soon this is happening, it's not a secret anymore. I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but you're leaving for tour what, in 2 days?
In 3 days.
In 3 days. That's nuts. Yep. And how long is that tour going to be? I saw the poster, but I can't remember anything.
It's 4 weeks.
Okay. Well, man, that's a good length. So I'm really interested to be checking out this new song. As I told you, this is a legitimate 100% first time reaction. I know nothing. And part of the reason I wanted to do that as well is because I have a lot of students right now who are very interested in your voice. A lot of students who, oh, by the way, he told me not actually to say this, but I'm going to say this. Vadim says he loves you and hi from Germany. And then he said, no, actually don't tell him that. It's weird. And I was like, too fucking late, bro. It's like too late, dude. So that's
send him my regards.
Yeah. Oh, he'll watch this for sure. But anyways, you know, I'm excited to listen to this because I feel like tell me if you disagree, but I feel like you guys have been really exploring a lot of different like sounds. Like, you know, you had eulogy or elegy, as some people say. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Which that was very distinct. That had some power metal influence, and then right after that, it was back to the like nasty heavy. What's the overall direction I can anticipate with Flying the Black Flag and the new stuff you have coming out?
Well, since the start of Shadow of Intent, 11 years ago almost now, experimenting and trying new things has kind of always been the shtick of the band, I guess. So this new stuff, I would personally say is probably our heaviest album.
Okay.
Where the other times we weren't really, I mean, not that we're worried about it now, but we weren't really worried about being heavy or the heaviest band. But this time it's very mean, vicious, and maybe even scary at times. There's a few parts that I kind of laugh at because I'm like, how did we write this? This is awesome. So
hell yeah.
It's different for sure. Like everything else that we've done, you know, every album has its own flavor or sound to it.
Sure. Awesome. Now, one thing I'm kind of curious is that you all have, and you know, I'm sure we'll talk about it as we get into it, but you all have definitely had a lot of or you've had a few different like subject matters. Like as everybody knows, it started
Yeah.
out like talking about like Halo, which like not a bad subject, right? I've still only ever beat Halo 2. Like
Wow.
so
Well, at least you beat the best one.
But is that the best one? Okay, good. I
Yeah,
did
that's
like
my
it a lot.
favorite.
And then you've explored like history, like war history, things like that.
Mhm.
What's the concept? What's the concept here? Like, you don't have to tell me. You can be like, see if you can figure it out, and then I'll be like, really? Like with metal vocals? Come on, don't do that to me.
So it's kind of the continuation of Elegy. When I wrote Elegy, I had the history stuff in mind, and I wanted to paint a picture of experiences that some people had that really happened. All those songs were based off of certain things, and this one kind of continues that. Elegy is like the prequel, being like, humankind has always been like this, and it will continue to be so. And now this album kind of focuses on the right now and what's to come.
Oh, interesting.
From that. So it focuses a lot on propaganda, on the future of weaponry on the battlefield, like drones, for example, how drones have kind of revolutionized how wars are being fought right now to a level that is, at least in my opinion, unforeseen. I mean, it's pretty scary. And just, about the direction the world's going in, I guess.
Sure.
And to me, that's these subjects anyways are a lot more scary than, Satan or, depression or whatever you want to, talk about. But this one, I wanted to really focus on the horrors of the realities that are at hand.
Interesting. So let me ask you this follow-up question then, because I feel like this is a great question. So obviously, like, music is no stranger to taking stances, right? I mean, one of my favorite examples of this is Rage Against the Machine, right? And then when everybody got mad when that band went woke, and it was like, have you been listening to their music? Like, what?
Like, literally the name of the band itself.
I know. And we were like, that's their thing. So in this, and we don't have to like dig deep into like political stuff or anything like that. We don't really do that on this channel, but I am curious, just so I can kind of conceptualize what I'm listening to. Is this more like an observation, like these are the things going on, or is there some sort of like, like stance being taken?
Not particularly in this song. This song specifically targets, I guess, a specific scenario. So I follow lots of combat documentaries and read a lot of stuff, and that's just, what I'm into. It's what I do. I know a lot about it.
Sure.
It's mostly when I get free time, what I'm doing. So there's a scenario that comes up, I guess, when you're in a military, certain militaries, that when they're invading another country, they may be given orders to basically pillage, loot, commit crimes and whatnot. And this song is in the perspective of somebody who's in that scenario. And basically, you're either complicit or you're complicit and trapped, which, some of these people may not want to do these things, but they feel they have to because of the pressure from their peers. They don't want to be killed for speaking out. So they, might murder somebody or something like that. I can really talk about this forever. So
Sure.
I'll try and wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah.
So basically, it's just when that kind of scenario is going on, all it does is anger and antagonize the other side, and it creates basically just a vacuum of hatred and an area that not a whole lot of people are going to survive in, and even if they do, a piece of them will be missing, and this song is kind of about that.
Interesting. That's fascinating, and that's an interesting subject that well, we might get into a little bit as the song continues. But it's interesting. I will say this before we get started. I remember when I was younger, I was like, I thought like all that stuff was like super cool, and as I got older, like not so much interesting, important to know about. But like, it's so funny. Like, I still love me like a horrifically violent video game, but like in the real world, like I'm almost like a full blown like pacifist in my older age, in a video game, I'll, just do whatever. But like in real life, like
sure.
as I get older, and I think as becoming a dad, it's changed it too. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's check out the song. I'm very excited. 3 minutes and 57 seconds. That's nice. Not too short, not too long. It's a digestible length. Although like I love me a good like 10, 12-minute song, so it doesn't bother me.
We've got some longer ones. This one is towards, I guess, the earlier points of the album. So it's just a nice speedy one that will blend nicely in the mix of things, I think.
Well, plus, I've heard say before that you don't want to release like a 10-minute song as a single unless like that's specifically what your band is known for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Opeth or something.
Yeah, like they could get away with it. But all right, cool. So let's enact another awkward YouTube pause and let's check out Shadow of Intent, Flying the Black Flag. Here we go.
Cool.
All right. What a fucking cool shot that is, dude. That's a
shows were crazy.
From the one screenshot I'm seeing here. I mean, look at this guy. He's like in full like euphoria mode. All right, here we go. Be a punk, and I'm gonna pause it there because that's obviously a good spot. So first things first, dude. So this is very much like the feeling of metal I've been very into recently. So I'm really glad I didn't listen to this beforehand. It's got the march like that, dum, dum, but it's also got like the speedy anticipatory element with the guitars. That's really, really cool. The main thing I want to ask you about, and I want to not get it out of the way, but I want to get into it right at the beginning of the video because this is what everybody is always asking about. I want to talk to you about that low tone. Now I know that 2 years ago we talked about your lows, but I don't know about you, man, but I feel like my relationship with my voice is very different than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and obviously like this, people who are watching the channel, maybe they didn't see the first one. Maybe this is the first one of with you on the channel that they're seeing. So the main thing I want to talk to you about is like with that low tone, like, I mean, there are a lot of questions I could talk to you about it, but do you have like, well, let's start here. Let's kind of start ground up. When you're warming up or prepping your voice, and you're thinking about kind of like getting into that space, right? What are some things you do to lead up into that low? Because oftentimes we can really take apart what we're doing, or I guess I should say understand what we're doing by the way we warm up into it, right? Like if somebody's doing false chord and they do like a then that gives us some insight into what they're doing. So what are some ways that you warm up and sort of start leaning into that vocal when you're going to be on stage or in the studio or just having fun around the house, whatever it may be?
I mean, I definitely have to have like my sinus situation under control to just jump into it. But I don't know, man. I don't usually have too crazy of a warm-up scenario. I'll do like a few screams and they'll sound maybe a little rusty, and then by scream 5 usually I'm pretty good to go.
Okay.
But I'll try to stick to like vowel sounds like O's, like, and try to just push the O as low as I possibly can.
Sure.
And that'll help me kind of get into the groove of things, I guess. And and then I'll try to do like a where I can't really do it right now, unfortunately.
Yes,
I wish I could, but I'll do more of like a kind of scenario with the scream, and that's really it.
Okay. Yeah, to anybody who's watching, Ben is getting his roof work done, so there's like a ton of noise, and for us to we had to decide, do we want noise cancellation to make, because like without any sort of noise cancellation, it sounds crazy over there. So, but with the noise cancellation, his screams aren't going to come through. So we probably won't have a whole lot of screams in this video, but you can see them in the other video. Now, I want to interject here, because you gave this example of, you go like, oh, and that's going to make any metal vocalist who watches this be like, fry screams.
Yeah, no.
No,
no, definitely not.
No, you were using that sound as like a sort of stand-in for what you work on. You don't actually build on that. Okay.
Yes,
just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah. What I'm doing is definitely, I don't even know if it's definition false chord scream. Probably a little, like a few things going on, but it's very chesty, and I'll use that and do that exact kind of motion with it.
Sure. Yeah. Now, one thing I'm curious about is, you mentioned like you'll be a little bit rusty when you do the first couple, which that is an amazing thing for you to say, because dude, it's so interesting. I've got a ton of students, and so many of them, like, if they can't like roll out of bed and do like a perfect studio ready scream in 2 seconds, they think they suck. And I'm like, what world are you living on?
No, usually like my first couple ones are like, they sound like me, but they might not be the same pitch register. They might be a little cracky, and I'll be like, I'll swear at myself and call myself a name real quick, and then I'll get it under control.
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple in the booth outbursts, I'm not going to lie. Yeah,
we all have.
Oh yeah, I had really bad acid reflux on this last album, and I was having a lot of trouble. Acid reflux doesn't really affect my screams, but it affects my singing, and I was having a lot of trouble with pitch that day because my vocal cords were just fried. And I'm not gonna lie, I had like this gallon of water that I hadn't opened yet, and I was like, I was just punching I was just beating that thing like it owed me money. So I want to kind of know, do you notice a difference in sensation when a scream is rusty or not quite where you want it, or when a scream is like, ooh, like that is butter, that's perfect, that's exactly where it should be? And what are those differences in feeling, as best as you can describe them?
Well, when it's how it should be, it feels very open. I can feel like the grit that you can hear in my voice. I can I can tell that the mucus is where it's supposed to be, I guess. And on the flip side, it feels like maybe I've got, a little phlegm bubble in my throat or something like that. And there might be like a little hint of my voice in there that just wants to cut in. And it kind of feels tighter. And the more warmed up I get, the more open and like fluid it'll start feeling. So I don't know. It's kind of a hard thing for me to describe, I guess. But it's easily rectifiable for me most of the time. So
sure. Yeah. And it's interesting too. It can be a hard thing to describe, because when we're doing a lot of these more, I guess we could say, compressed vocals, not just like the air dump false chord, which I love the air dump false chord. People think the air dump false chord is bad. I love the air dump false chord, but it's not the sound that you always want, right? We have to narrow somewhere, right? So we have to, when I do it, it sounds like if I do the vocal posture that I do for like my lows, if I talk through it, it sounds like Kermit the Frog. And to do that, I have to have like a very gentle squeeze, like back below my tongue, but somehow the airway itself still feels open. And so it's a difficult feeling to describe, because it's like weird. Yeah. It's kind of contradictory, Yeah.
I really don't know how I would describe mine for sure, but it's very similar to what Corpse Grinder does. Like I'm like full on sending it, like full send. Every muscle in my body feels like it's going to explode when I'm doing those things. Yeah, it feels crazy, dude. And you can probably, I mean, if you're in the front row watching this play, you can probably see it in my face, my eyes. Sure. I'm just like fully 100% sending it with the lows. But yeah, like you said, there are certain things I do where I kind of dial it back a little bit because I have to. I can't just blare everything out like a air horn. It doesn't work like that.
Have you noticed, I'll ask you this and we'll get back to, speaking of phlegm, I'm super phlegmy today. Have you noticed, and maybe you've never even tried, who knows, but like after a show or after recording, do you ever feel like your falsetto or like your head voice, if you were to go like, like maybe you're talking to your son and you're like, hey baby, woo, whatever. Do you ever feel like you wouldn't be able to access that in the same way? You might sound like, like, hey baby, woo.
I mean, sometimes it happens where I sound like very throaty, and my voice will sound deeper than normal, and it sounds real weird.
Oh, and, really?
Brittany will be like, "Why are you talking like that?" I'm like, "That's just how it is right now."
Interesting. Well, that's a whole subject we could probably do another like 2-hour video on, but we will spare people. We will spare people from that from that situation. Besides, it sounds like something cool is just about to happen. But yeah, also like totally off topic, the color grading on this video is awesome. I love how much the orange is popping. Like,
yeah, Dan did a great job. This is actually his first music video that he's done.
Really?
And yeah, we had the idea when we were on the tour, and we were like, you should just do the music video. And I think he did a great job.
I mean, we're only 56 seconds in, but so far, 2 thumbs up, man. All right, here we go. Yeah, I'm just so this is more for the viewers. Look at the teeth, my friends. Look at the teeth. One of the most important things, and one thing that I think you do very well, is the shifting of tone and timbre, right? Taking a vowel and making it sound bright and sharp or dark and low. And we talk about mouth shapes so much. We talk about mouth shapes so much in metal, and this is like, oh man, we just saw it like 4K resolution, pulling the teeth back. Check this. I'll play it, but check this out, everybody. That's awesome. Like, look at that orange and that blue. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful. All right, here we go. Those highs are dirty. Those highs are dirty. Like, I think you've always had strong highs for sure, but those sound like extremely crispy. So I want to talk to you about your highs real quick. Also, one thing we were talking about before the video, this will be very interesting to a lot of my students, is that you used different. This is the first time you've ever recorded with a condenser mic. Am I remembering that correctly?
Correct.
Yeah. Tell me which one it was again.
Telefunken TF-47.
And me, like, knowing nothing about gear, I was like, I never heard of it. But what were some? I
never heard of it either until I used it.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. But for anybody out there that's, and again, I'm not a gearhead, so I'm not gonna go into like here's what a condenser mic is, because really I have no idea. But I will say, we did the same thing on our last album. It's not released yet, but we did the same thing. And everything was so sensitive and crispy, and it kind of stressed me out at first because I was like, dang, like I'm used to the warmth of this guy comparatively. So that might be part of the reason those highs are sounding super, super crispy, is that condenser mic. But I also want to talk to you just about your highs similarly to how we talked about the lows. Do you find them to be equally as accessible? I mean, you've been doing it you've been at this for a long ass time. So At this point, they're probably just as easy, but do you find one to be a little bit more accessible than the other, or talk to me about that?
The low range is definitely the more accessible one for me. Highs took me a long time to get a hold of, and get like anywhere with them basically. So I've really just kind of maybe started getting more comfortable with doing more highs.
Really?
Like I had them on the first 3. I had a lot of them, and there are some on Elegy, which there are naysayers that say they're not, but they're there. And I don't know. I didn't think that they were that important, so I didn't do a whole lot of them. I didn't feel like they fit everywhere on the album. And then I started seeing a lot of people being like, "Oh, I miss his highs," and I'm like, "Well, never really thought anything of them, I guess. I've always been like the
Uh-huh.
low guy. So I wanted to try and do more of them this album, and I'm having fun with it. I think they fit well where I put them, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But I can only do so much of them before like my entire mouth is filled with spit, and it becomes impossible to do them basically.
Mm-hmm.
And The Heretic Prevails is the song that always gets me with that, for whatever reason. So I do have to kind of fluctuate back and forth,
Sure.
not just out of, or not just for the song, but for my own, voice. Or otherwise it'll just start to get gross and weird.
So this is interesting. I have, for me, highs were the first thing I ever got and the first thing I was ever comfortable with. But I do have like some highs that I do where it's very similar. My mouth will start to just fill with saliva, and it's gross. Like it's nasty. And so like like how I learned I had really bad acid reflexes. I went to the doctor because I was like, what the fuck is this buzzy noise on my vocal cords? And I was freaking out and I was nervous. And so I showed the doctor, and I don't live in Phoenix, but I live in a suburb of Phoenix. And so it's a huge city. The ENT had heard about metal before. He didn't just shoo me out the door the moment he heard what I did. He was like, he had to do the mandatory, like, oh, I don't listen to that stuff, but I think it's cool if you ever notice that everybody always has to say that. They always have to be like, oh, I don't like the vocals, and it's like,
Great.
Okay, like I don't know why you feel like you have to put a disclaimer, but so I did a couple of them, and he told me, he was like, well, I think what's happening is that because our highs sound fairly similar, right, as far as the way that we're doing them. I mean, we sound different in that we're different people, but it sounds like we're leaning on the same technique. And he told me that as the back of my mouth, the pharyngeal space closes up, it causes my tonsils. And he told me that, I don't know if this is true, but he's a doctor, so I'm inclined to believe him, that there are salivary glands like right behind the base of our tongue, and I'm just rattling the hell out of those. And it's his guess was like, you're probably just stimulating a ton of saliva creation, because I was worried. I was like, does this mean I'm doing something wrong? Like, does this mean? And he's like, nah, you just might have to spit a lot. And I was like, okay, well, I can live with that.
Well, anyone who's toured with me knows that the stage is usually covered in my spit by the time we're done, unfortunately.
Bro, you should
do it a lot.
You should get like some, like, how like the guy Jonathan Davey of Korn, he's got like his special like stand, and all these vocalists have like Nurgle has his stand. You should have your own spittoon. You should have like an iconic spittoon. And the thing is, I'm kind of serious. Like, if it was kind of cool looking, not like you need to be any more iconic, like you're already like very iconic in the metal world, but like, just imagine like your Shadow of Intent spittoon, you know what I mean? Like that, like maybe it's got, well, anyway, all right, I'm just going off topic, but that'd be sick.
That's funny.
I don't know, but I know what you mean. So when you're doing your highs, I want to ask you again about how they feel. One thing that's really interesting is that we as people, and this is something I've learned from coaching for almost 5 years now, is that the ability to sense accurately what's happening in the vocal tract is so drastically different across so many people. And one is not necessarily better or worse than the other. I've met, such as yourself, a lot of very, very talented vocalists who the sensation internally for them is all kind of hard to pinpoint. And then I've met other people who a varying degree of skill, where they could tell you like, oh, right tonsil 45 degrees back, and they can tell you exactly. And like, even I have a pretty high level of accuracy, but I don't have like that high level of accuracy. But I'm curious,
I'm very inaccurate, apparently.
it's just some people, I don't know what it is, but I really do think it's true that it is just that way for some people. So when you're doing your highs, you mentioned your lows are very chesty, and that's chest voice resonance. That's what you have there, right? Which is interesting for me, because when I do like my super deep lows, I feel almost everything in my mouth, very, very little in my chest. Not that one way is wrong or another. It's just different variations on these things. What do your highs feel like to you? Any sensation that you do have, what's it like?
They almost feel like a hiss in a way, a very
Mm.
projected hiss. Um, like they're very loud. What me and Bryce were laughing about this yesterday. He recorded a feature for me, and we had to like crank the gain all the way down compared to some of the other things I was doing.
Yeah.
Because it's probably my most projected vocal. So it feels like a very projected hiss, and I kind of put myself in a state of mind, I guess you could say, of like, oh, I'm being skinned alive, and this is me screaming. You know what I'm saying? I can't really fully explain how it feels, but I have to be.
Sorry, everybody. We had an internet blip. But I think, Ben, I think I remember where you left off. You were talking. We were talking about how your high vocals feel.
Yeah.
You were talking about how they're like a really loud hiss. You have to get yourself into a very like skinned alive. Yeah. Oh, and I think we were talking about how loud they are, and you had to turn down the gain for a feature or something.
Yeah, so that's a thing, and I don't know. I can't really describe how they feel, but I'm just starting to maybe understand that because I've been able to fluctuate with the range a lot more. So I've been trying out like all these different styles of highs that I've never done before. And I'm really enjoying it. So maybe the next time you have me on here, I'll have a better answer for you.
Hell yeah, dude. And here's the thing, man. This is gonna sound like a shameless plug and a pitch, and it's not. But if you ever want to just fucking talk and be like, yo, I don't need you to teach me vocals, but can you just explain to me what's going on? Hell yeah, dude.
Sweet.
One thing that's really a fun, one of my favorite things to teach is like how to feel your voice. It's a cool sensation. It's a little different for everybody. I don't know. Maybe you would do that and you'd be like, man, this guy's a fucking schmuck, dude. But
no, I'll throw a few things your way.
Yeah, might as well, man. But one thing I'm kind of curious about. You said something to me that was very fascinating. You were like, I don't remember your exact wording, but you had said, "Oh, I didn't really think that my like highs mattered much. I never really paid attention to them." And so this is a question for you that I find really interesting is, and tell me if this question makes sense or not. But do you find yourself paying a lot of attention to like the vocal meta, or are you the kind of person who really like you're just doing your own thing? You're not really like scanning the Reddits and the forums and all these the Reddits. I sound like the most boomery dad ever. But like you're not like, do you find yourself really like engrossing yourself in like the metal vocal community and the metal vocal meta, or are you just like, I do what I do and I do it well, or maybe you're somewhere in between? Talk to me about that.
I'm definitely in between. Like I keep up with all that kind of stuff, the Reddits and the other stuff. So
yeah,
I definitely read it because I would like to know what people's opinions are. I like knowing people's opinions about things, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't really let it influence me. I still want to do whatever I want. And bottom line, I'm only going to do what I feel fits at that point in the song. I'm never going to force anything just because somebody wants to hear it.
Hell yeah, dude. I love it. And I think, that's the interesting thing. Almost every like very, very like talented and respected vocalist I've had on the channel has a similar mindset where they're not like against the metal vocal meta. They actually find it quite interesting, but at the end of the day, like they are their own vocalists doing their own thing. And I think that's extremely cool and extremely important as well. And I think that a lot of times I'll have people who they're a little too chronically online with their vocal opinions, and it messes with their own like ability to assess themselves. Like and I am more than happy to say I have nothing against. I think it's really important. I think this is a cool time to be metal vocals because there's so many ways that we can share our thoughts and our opinions and our clips with each other. But on the flip side, I get people who are so like, well, technically that's a cricothyroid, a written whistle fry backflip scream, and actually that's chest compression, and I'm like,
Yeah, I've seen that a lot with me, or like videos and me being like, "Oh, I figured out how to do Ben Duerr vocals," and I listen to it, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's not even remotely what I'm doing."
Yeah.
But it's cool either way, you know. At least people are doing it.
Hmm.
It's yeah, like you said, it's a great time to be a vocalist. There's lots of new stuff going on.
There's tons of new stuff going on, and I think that like when people pair exactly kind of what you're doing, they pair like their interest with vocal knowledge, but they lead with their own sense of creativity. So like at the end of the day, all the definitions are really cool and they're important, but does it feel cool? Does it feel comfortable? Does it sound cool? Then hell yeah. Like that's, that's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, let's keep going at it. I'll play a bigger chunk of the song for the homies out there watching this video, but I can't help it. I'm just curious. I have all these questions. What am I supposed to do? All right, here we go. I just realized I probably need to share my screen again, don't I?
You absolutely do.
I absolutely do, bro. I'll start. Well, all you missed was a drum fill, and I'm pretty sure you've heard that. I'm pretty sure you've heard that fill a couple times. So
yeah, a couple, 2-3 times.
Yeah. All right, let's do just a test to make sure you can hear it. I'll go back. Actually, I'll go back to that fill because that's the perfect time. Can you feel it? Hear that?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Let's go back. Actually, let's listen to that transit. Oh, there's a profile pic for you. Put that on your MySpace. Hell yeah. All right, let's keep going. All right. Everybody shut up. Like that is an interesting. All right. So man, that is an interesting vocal section. Let me play that again. That you're wilding, bro. You's out here doing stuff. Let's check it out. Yeah, that mid to low transition is awesome. And again, this live, I'm so glad y'all did this live video with this awesome camera quality because we can see what's happening with the embouchure, with the teeth, with the tongue, right? Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. Do you and again, like feeling we're using as a very big amorphous term today. But when you're switching from that mid to that low, do you feel like you're switching techniques, or do you feel like you're switching techniques? Okay. Yep. I'm not going to lead the witness. Tell me about it. In any terms you can. Whatever way you describe it is the right way to describe it. You can't do it wrong because it's you. You know what I mean?
I guess the more mid-range vocal feels almost like I'm balancing it on top of my Adam's apple.
Okay.
Like it's it's a diaphragm vocal, but I feel it like bouncing up here. Like that's where I'm feeling the vibrations of it. And I kind of have to balance it there, or it'll just sound like crap. It'll just sound like something that I don't want it to sound like. I'm trying to go for this sound, Yeah. And the low is very like pulled back. I don't know how to explain it. There's definitely a very physical difference elsewhere. Like the mid feels a little bit more relaxed. Like I have a bit more freedom of movement when I'm doing that. And the low is really like I gotta like plant it kind of most of the time because that's really where I'm like most tensed up. None of my vocals are comfortable. My band is always like when we come off stage, I'm literally like dying in the back, and my band's like, "Are you okay, dude?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just 5 minutes." I'm like torturing myself up there with some of the stuff. So that vocal is probably the most comfortable vocal I have to do.
That mid?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like you can hold, like if you were to hold a screen, your mid and your low, which one I'm gonna make a hypothesis here. I wanna make my guess ahead of time, but I don't know exactly how to go about that. Okay, I'm gonna type my guess into Instagram and I'm gonna send it to you. But you answer the question first and you tell me if I got it right. Which one would you run out of air with faster?
Let's see.
I might be wrong, but I think it's probably your mid. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
I knew it. Well, you got to know some stuff. I guess, you know.
Why? I want to know why that's your guess, though.
So to me, this is what my assessment of your voice is, right? Is that so you do almost everything you do falls under the false chord umbrella, which in my opinion is possibly unnecessarily wide umbrella, right? You know, but these terms are changing, they're evolving, and you know that's fine. Sometimes people get the idea that I think terms are bad. I don't think they're bad. I just think that they're slippery in the current state of things. So we have to be a little bit malleable, right? And in a lot of, for example, a lot of what I do, people put under the false chord umbrella. But your false chord, your mids, to me, sound like they're building really heavily on just like a fundamental false chord sound. A very, very fun, like that, like I think we can definitely call false chord. You may have that feeling you have of like bouncing right on the top of your Adam's apple. That could potentially be a structure called your epiglottis flopping around a little bit. And you certainly have like a chunky wetness to pretty much all of your vocals that tends to come from chunky tissues flopping around, right? Which is a hallmark of false chord and false chord type vocals. Yeah. And with a false chord fundamental, your vocal cords are entirely disengaged. Right. So, well, they may be brought together to narrow the airstream, but they're not meeting together over the center line. They're not phonating. Right. And so because of that, air is just dumping faster, like a false chord fundamental vocal. Like if I do like a basic false chord fundamental and I don't do anything to try to narrow that airflow because I just want the chunky sound, I don't necessarily care about the longevity. I can only hold that for about like 3 seconds, maybe 4.
Oh, wow.
Right. You know, now, if I want more longevity, I can start to narrow the opening. And the more I narrow the opening, the more I can hang on to it. But like, yeah, basic like false chord, just like a like those types of grunts, you're going to run out of air faster by nature of what they are. Your lows, and this is true a lot of different vocals, that comes from squeezing together the tissues above the vocal cords. And that closes up the opening again. It's just instead of your vocal cords, right, you're using the tissues on top of that. And so we can hold on to the air longer because rather than this big channel basically going, we have a smaller channel kind of going, right? And then that sounds cool when it comes through our vocal tract. So, yeah, basically what you're doing is you're switching from and these terms may change, in the next couple of years, we don't know, but you're switching from like a false chord mid to like, some people call them an arytenoidal growl. Some people call them an epiglottal growl. I don't know that we have proof of either, so I'm fine with both. Right. But we do know that those structures are moving. Like when I got scoped 3 years ago, the structures above my vocal cords, they were very tight and closed, but my epiglottis was also flopping a little bit. So like, does that count as a hybrid scream? Man, I don't know. But I think we're doing it to different balances. And I think the natural structure of your voice has a huge effect on it. But that would explain those differences. And it's super fascinating too. So those are my thoughts. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, Ben. I appreciate it.
It's very interesting. I don't mean to yawn either. I've been up since like 4 o'clock.
Oh, dude, we're both new dads. Like if you weren't yawning, I'd be like,
yeah,
are you a robot? Like what? You know? No, dude, yeah. I'm always tired. You know, my son's almost 2, and I'm just gonna let you know you're still gonna be always tired. So
sweet.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Anyways, let's keep going here. That was like from a technical perspective, like those rapid fire highs into that false chord mid to like the more compressed low. From a technical perspective, that's been my favorite part of the song so far. Although the fucking tremolo picking melody underneath the blast beats, that's my shit though. That's like, ooh, give me anything that sounds even moderately black metal adjacent, and I'm gonna like it. That's just what it is. All right, let's keep going. That's fascinating right there. Let's talk about, okay. So that right there is another thing that you can dig into to get a better understanding. So right there, you know, I've been wrong before, but I'm willing to bet you're not pressing as hard as you do for your full screams. It feels more like narration. Ha ha. Okay. Now let me ask you, before I make too many assumptions, which I have been known to do, you know, I get excited and I run too fast. Could you take that narrated voice and could you sort of press into it and turn it into a full bore like scream?
Yep. That's basically like I have like very kind of like black metalish sounding screams, like especially on Melancholy, and that's basically that just dialed back. It's like talking, like throat singing.
Okay, so
kind of like the same thing.
Okay, cool. So let's dig into that. And again, because of all the chaos over at your house and the noise, I'm not going to ask you to do it because it would just get muted. I know everybody in the comments will be like, "Oh man," but we tried it beforehand. It's not.
Come see a show.
Come see a show on this upcoming tour. But is it easier for you to describe what that one feels like? Because generally speaking, okay. Talk to me about what that one feels like.
So almost like it's almost like if you were to turn like what you would do for like a fake burp, like a burp, like that. Do that, but you turn it into a voice. Like it's like the same thing, and it's
like
it's maybe a little difficult to control. And it took me a while to get a hang of it, but around Reclaimer, I started doing it a lot more, and now it's like I can pretty much do it whenever, and it's literally basically just talking mixed with that. And you can add some more force into it, and it turns into a scream. Another way that I usually describe it is it's like mimicking. If you're a SpongeBob fan or grew up with SpongeBob, it's like mimicking the guy who goes like without any milk from the whatever. Salted Spittoon episode. You know, eating boiled nails for breakfast. It's like doing that exact voice basically.
Sure.
And just adding a little bit of scream to it.
Sure. So I don't know if this will work, and if it doesn't, we can just edit it out because nobody wants to hear a bunch of like crappy stuff. But no screams, because actually this will be more interesting. I want to make two voices, and I want to see if you're able to make them. And they're just speaking, right? Sure. You want to give it a try or
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one, and just try your best to mimic me, which I know I've done this before with people who have been screaming for like 40 years. And they're like, what? So it's tricky, but go like this, say like, you know, hey everybody, my name is Ben.
Hey everybody, my name is Ben.
Okay. Next voice. Hey everybody, my name is Ben.
Hey.
Yeah. Which one does the speaking voice you just used in this song, which one does it feel more like, the first one or the second one? It feels more like the first one. Hey, it feels more like that. Yep. Can you do it voiceless for me? So like you actually, so you did it earlier. You were like, it's kind of like this.
Yeah. So it's almost like a burp, like a burp. Burp. And I don't know. Let me see. You can kind of talk like this with it. I don't know.
Okay, so here let's do a couple things back to back. Thank you for entertaining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So do the burp and then do the throat singing. So so it sounds to me more like the second one.
But it feels more like the first one for me. I don't know. I'm weird, I guess.
It's okay. It's okay. Let's poke and prod one more, and then I'll leave you alone. So here, let's do this. Go. And then what was the?
I can't do that one.
What was the SpongeBob quote?
Without any milk.
Without any milk. Okay. When you do that, do you feel any squeeze on the back of your tongue or no?
No, I do feel my throat trying to fight it right now because I haven't done vocals in like a week. So
Okay. Sure. Okay, cool. So without any milk. Without any milk. Whatever.
it's I do like a mixture of both sometimes. So like
Okay.
without any milk.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Well, that's fascinating. That'll be well, whoever watches this video, that'll get people buzzing for sure. But that's really fascinating.
Yeah. Different.
Yeah. So honestly, sometimes that stuff for me is more interesting than the actual screams, because it's like you're looking at it under a microscope, and it's really interesting how the sound is here. Like when you do it and you're like, yeah, there it is. The sound is here, but it feels more like, hey, the sound is here. So anyways, I won't make people watch us dig into that, but we can spend a whole.
I'll have to send you something when this is done that I think you'll like. Don't let me forget.
Sure. But yeah, that's super fascinating. My student Vadam he's both gonna love that section and also find it very confusing, but that's okay. That's the nature of things. All right, let's keep going though. But that's a really, for anybody watching, if a metal vocalist that you really love does any sort of narration, like they do like speaking and distortion, a lot of vocalists that do this are, of course, Travis Ryan does it. Johnny Davey does it. Alex Tan does it. Shagrath or Shagrath, Nurgle does it. These are really good ways to sometimes get insight into their vocal. It depends on if they could turn that speaking voice into their vocal, but it can be a good insight. So things to listen for. Anyways, let's keep going. Well, sure enough, smacked my face off with the end there. One thing I'm really interested in, especially after hearing this song, is kind of like your method of writing, right? Because we've talked a lot about technique and sensation and all of this stuff. Talk to me a little bit about like when you're writing this song, like what am I trying to say here? How many drafts do you go through? Like, do you sit down, come up with some stuff? Usually it's like your first or second draft, or do you do like a ton of different drafts? And again, you've been at this forever. So I don't want like a brand new vocalist to watch this and be like, why is it taking me like 5 drafts? And it's only taking him 1 or 2. So it's not a good comparison, but just kind of curious for just the sake of information.
I mean, it really varies per song. I don't think I've ever had more than like just a few. Mm-hmm. Usually I'm like a 3 draft guy. So like I'll have my first draft, I'll go to track like a demo of it, and I'll be like, this part could sound cooler, I guess. And I'll like rewrite the line or, change the lyrics real quick. And I'll do that. And then usually right around when it's like finalizing time, I'm like, wait, I have these few ideas that I've thought of over the last month or so. That I'll throw in there. And then there's songs like I just wrote this one song for the album we're working on, and Chris was like, I don't think I can remember the last time that I was so pleased with the first draft from you. So that song I might not even do anything with. I might just leave it.
Dude, that is something very valuable I've learned, is that sometimes if like a bandmate says that, maybe don't touch it.
I'm gonna leave that one.
Maybe don't touch it. We have a song called Between Sea and Sky, which was a very similar situation. It was like mostly a first draft, and I didn't really love it, and everybody was like, keep it. And now anybody, like our audience is really small, but the people who listen to Carter Chef, that's usually one of their favorites. So yeah, maybe I trust your gut on that one.
I'm gonna leave that one.
Yeah, leave that one. So what's your process then look like? Like let's say, you know, you've got the instrumental, it's ready to put down vocals. Are you like holing up in your room at like the dead of night with like, no? How are you doing it?
Usually I'm just taking a listen through the songs. I'll like put them in order. So I usually order how the album flows, like the track listing. I'll pick like the best sounding flow, I guess, the most cohesive one. And I'll be just listening through it. And then I'll get little ideas here, and I'll kind of just build them up until I'm like, okay, I can, you know, start trying to really take a stab at this. And I'll just, I'll sit down at the DAW and I'll write some. And usually when I track the part, I hear how I want the next part to sound, and I'll just keep going through it until I run out of ideas, basically.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you like what level of doneness do you usually wait for the instrumentation, for the composition, I guess, to be? Because that tends to vary a lot from person to person.
Yeah. So usually I know Chris, like whatever he sends me is just going to be the first draft. Like he's going to make changes to it. I usually wait for the changes because sometimes there's not many changes. Sometimes he just like keeps leveling the song up, and I'm like, dude, you can't make it any better. Just chill. And then he makes it better. I'm like, all right. Which is kind of the case of what's happening right now. I'm very excited for the new stuff. I think this is his best work in the band easily. I think all of us agree on that. So we're all really trying to match that level of effort right now and not go too crazy with the revisions and drafts. But I've had some of these songs for maybe close to 8 months, maybe a year now, that we're still revamping and working on. Because we just keep thinking of better ideas. That
you know, it's funny. And I'm gonna have to change. That's interesting. That's kind of different. That's fairly different actually from how I do it. I will be fully transparent and say that I know that the way that I do it sometimes is kind of frustrating for my bandmates. You know, but like I will not even touch a song as far as adding vocals until I know that for sure that the drums are like 90% done. Like, okay, you want to change a fill, okay. But like, oh dude, one of my biggest pet peeves is when you come up with something vocally and it's really cool, and then the drummer changes like the whole pace of the song, and you're like,
see, Bryce is really great about that. He's a really big team player, and he's very cognizant of like things that I might do or that I'm doing. And he'll try to like add a little bit of accenting or a little spice to something that I'm doing. And with the stuff right now that we're working on, I think we're doing a great job together.
Yeah. And you know,
awesome.
Like that's the attitude I should have, because it's honestly like, so our current, we've gone through a couple drummers, as you do, and our current drummer Sean is a lot more like that. So like I need to like
work together.
Yeah, you know, but like I can be kind of a stubborn mule, and that's something I am aware of about myself. And I'm definitely going to have to adapt the way that I write, because now we're split across 2 continents, 3 countries. So, you know, I'm going to have to be more adaptable. I'm going to have to be more of a team player. But that is really interesting to hear.
Old, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm 36, but I feel 56 sometimes, dude. But yeah, this is a killer song with a lot of really like very, very interesting points. I definitely am looking forward to listening through uninterrupted. But there was just so much to talk about, and that's what we do here on the channel anyway. I have a couple more questions for you, but I don't have a whole lot. So, you know, one thing that you're very, very well known for, and it's interesting to hear you say like after a set you're like off stage kind of like dying, you know. But one thing you're very well known for is your on stage endurance. Like, you know, the rapid fire sections, the low sections, you hit them all generally. I don't know that I've ever seen y'all live, to be honest with you.
You should change that.
I should change that.
I see a lot of people ask me for advice about vocals, and they're like, oh, I don't have the breath control to do the rapid fire stuff you do. And then we're talking about this now. And honestly, the rapid stuff that's like my sweet spot. That's the stuff that I'm like the best with. Yeah. And I think it probably is just because I learned literally every single Cannibal Corpse song when I was like 14 on vocals. So I got used to that kind of like fast paced delivery. It's the stuff like the end of this song where I'm like, we finish the part and I turn around to get water and I'm like, fuck, dude, like that's really yeah, that's fun. Like I can do it just fine. But me and vocals were synonymous with suffering. Like I make myself suffer up there for the sake of the music. And I love it. I love suffering doing vocals, but it is suffering nonetheless. So yeah, when I get off stage, I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna die sometimes. Sometimes I'm like seeing spots and stars and stuff. Sometimes like I almost passed out in Ireland when we just played there right after we were done. It gets a little crazy sometimes, but it's worth it.
Well, if ever you want to sound exactly the same but not almost pass out, you let me know. I got you covered, buddy. To be honest, so like we talked about at the beginning of the video. That's the only thing. We're playing in Germany at Euroblast, like I mentioned. That's the only thing I'm really nervous about. I'm not nervous about hitting my screams. I'm not nervous about being on time. I'm not even really nervous about my singing, because like straight up, I rewrote some melodies for the live version because I was a little over ambitious on our last album. I'm gonna admit that freely. But like the endurance of it is the part that like I'm a little nervous about, because I'm out of shape. I got multiple congenital heart diseases, so in a weird way, hearing that you feel like that is giving me a little bit of like comfort, which I don't know if that makes any sense. But I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah, I definitely deal with it. I get it though. I get stressed about that too sometimes. And sometimes I'm just so excited I don't care. I'm like, yeah, I got this. Let's do it.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting. But yeah, I'm stoked for this upcoming tour, dude. I'm stoked for what y'all have coming down the pipe. And this was a killer track. I think this makes a ton of like great pick for a single. Lots of energy, lots of interesting moments. Very, very dynamic. And you're, of course, doing all your cool vocal stuff. So that's all I got for you now, man. I appreciate you letting me take up such a chunk of your time. Anything else you want to mention, or any other parting things you want to say? Yeah,
I mean, we're going to be doing some more tours next year that we're working on. This song will be off our upcoming album for those who enjoy it. So keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears open. I said that backwards. And whatever. But yeah, for those that have checked out the song, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it yourself, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And if you haven't checked out Shadow of Intent, because, one thing that I really love about my job is that there's always a new generation. There's always a new wave of people experiencing metal for the first time. So like on one hand, it seems ridiculous that somebody hasn't heard of Shadow of Intent, but yet at the same time, there's always that wave of people just getting into metal, just discovering it. So if this is your first introduction of Shadow of Intent, like y'all are one of those bands where your whole discography is good. There are some bands.
Thank you.
Not my band. Where the early stuff is kind of like, and then it gets better. But the whole discography is really good all the way through. So definitely check out Shadow of Intent. And that's all I got. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Ben, for your time. Good luck with the house and being a dad. And
thanks. Likewise.
Yeah. Many thanks. Much love. We're out.